I'm here, and part of the reason I want to do this is to put a name and a face. I'm happy to be the guy who says, here's what I've done. And I'm sure it won't be sympathetic to some folks.
People must ask you this all the time. Why did you do this?
Why did I renounce? My reasons are probably interesting enough different from a lot of people who come to Nomad Capitalist, right? I mean, people think, Nomad Capitalist, we do tax, we do immigration. They think, oh, it's just money. That's all it is. I had thought about doing this for a long time. I remember walking around my neighborhood in the U.S. many years ago as a much angrier person, and I was talking to my father and said, I just want to get some passport and renounce. I do not like it here. I don't want the identity. And then going overseas and just seeing there's a difficulty. I remember, one time, I don't know, a number of years ago, I briefly dated someone from Iran. I remember, we were talking to an attorney. We were doing some compliance for our business, and I'm like, is that even allowed? Am I allowed to speak to anyone from Iran? He's like, and for me, as a guy who likes to kind of, who wants to be compliant. I mean, I don't want to be compliant, but I do comply because I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's what successful people do. You try and change the definition of what compliant is, and that's what I did. I just felt it really didn't serve me anymore. And I think that as humanity, we hold on to things that don't serve us because that's just the way we do things. And 6 months before I did it, I was in Vanuatu, met some guys who had renounced decades ago, and they said, you have the worst situation. You're a U.S. citizen and don't live in the U.S. And there's all kinds of obligations, and it's just very stressful. I said, no. I said, actually, I think the worst thing is you're a U.S. citizen and you do live in the U.S. For me, that was the worst thing. And so I realized, that was the value of it, was to go back, to live there, to work there. That's why most people have it. That's why most people hold it dear, because that's where they live. It's where they want to live. It's where their families are. It's where their job is. And that's not me. And, I just said, let's just clear the deck. Let's just, it's a spring cleaning of sorts. That which doesn't serve you, the sweater that doesn't fit anymore, you give it away. You give it to Goodwill. That's what I wanted to do.
And one of the things you discuss behind scenes is that not everyone should do this.
Yeah.
Correct?
Not everyone should. Yeah. People come to us at Nomad Capitalist. We have people who come. And by the way, we run a firm. We talk about tax. We talk about immigration. If we ran a boutique consultancy for people who didn't like living in the United States, it wouldn't make nearly as much money. I mean, so I am a business guy, and I talk about things that I think I can help other people with. Some people come to us, and their entire goal is, hey, I'm planning a big IPO, and I want to save some money on tax. Other people come, and I had a gentleman about a year and a half ago. He said, I'm tired of supporting the wars. I don't want to have a passport and to be paying tax to a country where my money and my identity is going to support killing people. I talked about that in the video after I did renounce, and I said, it's very frustrating for me to have that identity. On top of everything else, it's very frustrating for me to go places and to be American, and in some places that's not welcome. And I felt weird because it's I don't identify with a lot of the things that people don't like about Americans. I felt like those things weren't me. And so it was weird. But I think, if your thing is, if you're the guy who says, I don't want to support the wars, I almost try to talk people out of that. Because I think it's a very sobering decision. It's a very permanent decision. And so if you're acting out of some kind of anger or frustration, I've been there. I know what it's like. I think anger and frustration come from not having options. What I've seen is people who we've helped who they say, I'm going to renounce, I hate this place, it's the worst. I said, okay, hold on. Let's get a second passport first and then see how you feel. And then they start traveling on the second passport. And then, so for some people, the reasons are just angry. And if that's you, then I would say, take a step back and look at what are the other options to go where you're treated best. I'm not saying to do it or don't do it. I don't talk people into doing anything. I don't tell people you have to have a second passport. If that doesn't serve what you're trying to accomplish, I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. And so I guess having been that kind of frustrated guy, I would say that's not the place, whether it's renunciation or any other decision in life, that's not the place you want to be when you're making big, important decisions.
How did it feel to leave the United States?
To leave the U.S.? Well, here's the thing that I have empathy for when people come to us, and this is one of the things that they may be considering. But by the way, let me just say this. I'm here, and part of the reason I want to do this is to put a name and a face. I'm happy to be the guy who says, here's what I've done, and I'm sure it won't be sympathetic to some folks. I'm sure some folks will say, this guy's terrible, he's a traitor, he's a nasty person, we don't approve of it. That's fine. I'm here to talk to the people who I think really need to hear the human side of this, because all they have is one side. All they have is vilification. All they have is confusion. All they have is the bean counter side of this and not the human side. To your question and to that point, I had been gone. I spent much of the early 2010s traveling. I was outside of the U.S. more than I was at home. Those were the early days of me researching and studying this stuff. Towards the end of the early 2010s, I left for good. I came back to host one conference and to sell my house. And other than that, I was basically been gone. So when I went to Renounce, and they may have asked me, when was the last time in the U.S., I'd come back for 6 days in 2017. And it was really, it was nice actually. But by the end of the 6 days, it's like, all right, I've had enough. I've had enough now. And so my point is, for people who are considering this, or people who are thinking about this, I think I had the benefit of a number of years of already being physically gone and realizing that there are other places in the world and realizing how those other places work. And I continually learn about how to adapt in these other places and the challenges and the benefits and all that. But I think just leaving the United States and renouncing tomorrow is difficult. Now, sometimes things worth doing are difficult. But this is why I think having second passports early, rather than rushing to get one and then running at the door, is a good thing. Because I think I had the advantage of being able to say, I'm not losing much. I've already been gone for a long time. And to that point, I guess, when I first left the United States in 2012, 2013, for good, I gave myself that escape hatch that if you don't like it, you can come back. And I never came back. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.